Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome to, it's not even a show, it's just a little catch up with myself and Don. A fair amount of talk, over the transfer window so far with Chelsea. Obviously, players have had a bit of time off. Pochettino thinks that's the way to go around things. And I'm having a bit of time off. I know you're not, Don. You're hard at work, mate. So thanks for coming, on the
Mm,
channel. I'm in Dubai at the moment, and I have to admit I agree with Pochettino in the sense that players need a rest and he needs a rest. Like we always talk about these players like they're robots, and
mm.
don't get me wrong, they're expected to do the job on the pitch. It's what they're paid to do, but I do think it's probably the right decision to give them a break and just have a little bit of a cool down.
No, facts. I think, listen, first of all, yeah, make sure you lot are smashing the likes, big up Alex for the content, man. I'm seeing as the channel's pushing out a lot of content right now, man. So people, listen, leave your feedback in the comments. Let us know what you think of the show today, innit? But, bro, I couldn't agree anymore, man. I think second half of the season, like I've said, for me, it needs to be completely different to the first half. And if that starts with these lot going on a break like this, I'm here for it, innit? I'm here for it. But when they come back, I better see everyone switched on again, everyone ready to go again. I don't want to see people on the beach already thinking about their summer holidays. You've had your little winter break. So this hopefully should bring a little bit more energy in the team. Hopefully people like Nkuku will start to come back as well. And hopefully we can start to just bring that injury list even further down, man. So good timing. Good timing, in my opinion. I agree.
That's it, man. I mean, I don't know what your situation is with Poch. I know I did
Mm,
ask you on WhatsApp the other day. I asked a bunch of people, and generally speaking, I think it's relatively split down the middle. Like
yeah.
when we talk about managers like Sarri and Lampard, and I'd say more Sarri, actually, to be fair.
Mm,
It was relatively split as well. But I think the majority of fans, when things went wrong, would go against the manager. But I think with Poch, there is a decent amount of people that still look at him and say, you know what? This is part of what we are now. We're not the same Chelsea that we were under
yeah.
Abramovich. We've come in, we've had this 10th place for God knows how long. We've moved up into 8th. Now, I don't know about you, but I'll just
Mm,
say what I think. I think that when I look at this team, I don't see the quality that Poch needs to get where we want to be. And
mm,
people say, this is Chelsea FC. This isn't Chelsea FC. This is mid-table FC. Rightly so. We have mid-table quality players. And also people will then say, well, hang on a second. You spent all that money. But for me, we invested in potential. Potential doesn't shine through straight away. You look at some of these players like Mudryk. I think he has a very high ceiling. Same with Madueke, Cole Palmer. I mean, he's already hitting those heights right now. And to
yeah.
think what he can do in a better team, I mean, it's quite scary.
Mm,
So for me, I still believe that Pochettino deserves the chance to get the best out of this team. And I said this the other day on the fan cams. I don't love Pochettino. I
yeah.
definitely don't love Bowley, but in any project, you're going to have ups and downs. And
Mm,
when we look at Potter, and I backed Potter pretty much until Aston Villa, and that's when I said he has to go. That
yeah.
was an up and downs.
I
That
was
was just
there with you,
a
bro.
downward spiral.
me and Jem were there.
That was just a downward spiral the whole way.
Mm,
Um, so I get it. I actually put Potter in,
mm,
etc., etc. I mean, just let me know what you think about
yeah.
Pochettino. I mean, does he
Mm,
need more time? Is he
mm.
doing the best he can?
Right now, he's definitely not doing the best he can, man. Because look, the first thing that you said is you feel that he doesn't have the quality that's needed for us to kick on. Is that what you're saying, Alex? Yeah, you don't think we've got the quality in the team to kick on?
Yes, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I disagree, bro, because I think that we've got quality players in this team, yeah, that are good enough to be in and around at least top 6 right now, because when I look at the season overall, bro, I know we've got young players. I know we've had players that have been missing chances, but majority of the games that I've watched this season, tactically, we haven't been set up correctly. He's been playing multiple guys out of position throughout the whole season. A few weeks ago, only against Newcastle, bro. You clipped up that clip of me on TikTok. When I was
Mm.
speaking about it, you would have never thought that I was speaking about that the way I was talking after we beat Newcastle in that last minute and we beat them on penalties, because I don't ignore you know, the performances, regardless of results. They have not been good enough. And a big reason of that is because of Pochettino and how he's setting us up. You know what I mean? Playing guys out of position. Like I said, playing Enzo in the 10 majority of the season. Playing Ben Chilwell at left wing, you know, at the start of the season. Bringing him on the other day at left wing. People were telling me he brought him on to see out the game. He didn't bring him on to see out the game. I was seeing Ben Chilwell making forward runs. I was seeing Ben Chilwell in advanced positions. He didn't come on as a left wing back. He came on as a left winger. So what does that mean for Mudryk again? You know, one game starting him, another game chopping him, starting him for 3 games and dropping him completely again. Where's he going to pick up that rhythm? You know, Levi Cole at left back. These are just basic things that he's doing, and he's not using the squad to the best of his ability. So as much as, yes, these guys are not world-class players, they are a lot better than what's being showed right now. And a big reason why they're not looking as good is because they're not being used correctly. Perfect example the other day when we played Fulham, right? Enzo Fernandez. Look at the performances you get from Enzo when you play him in the right position, Alex, right? You need Enzo picking up the ball and facing the pitch, right? And progressing the ball from A to B. You don't want Enzo in between the lines, facing away from the pitch and having to make quick decisions. You want Enzo to have a little bit of time to think, right? And again, to pick up the ball from deep and progress it from A to B. And like I said the other day against Fulham, he was used correctly, you know? So, look, again, this squad should be a lot higher than where they are right now. And I'm not saying that's all on Pochettino. Yes, the owners should have brought more experience. We understand that. Yes, these players are young and, you know, some of them need a lot of developing to do. But at the same time, Pochettino has not been using this squad correctly, because there's a lot of good players in here that a lot of top 4 teams are taking, bro. Caicedo, Enzo. These are good players, man. As much as they're young, these are very good players. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I'm looking at Pochettino more than the players in terms of how they're being used. I don't think they're being used correctly. You know, Levi Cole, one of the best young centre-backs last year. He comes Chelsea, he looks like any average guy because he's not a left-back. Do you know what I mean? So,
you know,
I have to look at that as well, man.
I do agree with what you're saying. And this is why it's such a divisive situation with Poch. Because, again, I'm not his biggest fan. I didn't want him to come. You know, I would have picked Nagelsmann. I would have picked Mourinho over Pochettino. But we've got him. Right, just like we got Potter, we didn't want Tuchel to leave, you know, but I still backed him, you know, as much as I could. For me, Pochettino has improved this Chelsea team, and although you could argue he could have improved it more, and his tactics could have been better in game, I don't think that tactically that is where he shines. And people go, hang on a second, that's what a manager's supposed to do. But that is one of the small parts of a big picture. And that the big picture comes in because we're talking about long term. And that is why Mourinho has never been a long-term manager, because ultimately he's a fantastic tactician. He's a great motivator, but he falls out with people, and the club falls apart as soon as he leaves. We saw that with United. We saw that with Chelsea. I think Roma got rid of him before that could happen. So, you know, ultimately that's why he got sacked. So they wouldn't end up in the position that usually finishes in year 3. Pochettino's skills, man, is man management. Everyone knows that. And that's why I'm not too critical of his tactics at the moment, in the sense that I don't say that defines his reign at Chelsea so far. I don't think he should be playing Colwell as a left back, and I definitely don't think he should be playing Chilwell as a left winger, especially with Enzo as well, playing him a little bit deeper. I completely agree with that. But for me, and just to clarify this, Don, I mean, are you Poch out or are you Poch in?
Bro, he's on strike too. and when we lost against Middlesbrough, that's when the second strike came. The first one came against United, because I've watched basically every single game of United, and if you remember, I said we need to go there when we played Brighton, right? When I done my fan cam, I said we need to go there and we need to go and beat them, because everyone's been going to Old Trafford this year and giving them a game. They've lost a few games already there. One of the worst starts to a season that they've had in their history. Do you know what I mean? Ten Hag, unbelievable coaching all season. We turn up over there and Poch made this guy look like Heisenberg. He made this guy look like a genius. Do you know what I mean? So that was a big strike for me. And then losing to Borough the way we did, I'm sorry, bro. Mid-table team in the Championship. That was another heavy strike for me. Do you know what I'm saying? But
that was bad. I was there, mate. That was horrific.
I saw how angry he was, bro. For me, that was another heavy strike. And people were like, "Oh, Don, why are you not Poch out yet?" And this, that. The reason why I've been a little bit lenient, even though I've not been happy with how he's been performing majority of the season, is because we've still had a lot of injuries, right? And I'm not using that as an excuse, because what I've been saying, you know, week after week is no, it's true. But what I'm saying is, even with those injuries, our team, our 11 that we've had, or the players that we've had available to use, right, have been enough for him to be picking up results. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I look at us, right, and I think we've got one game a week. The way we've been built this season is to be able to manage these injuries. And again, I haven't had to come on any streams on the terrace or never if I and say, oh, if we had this guy fit, because we've still had guys in reserve. If Caicedo's not there, we've normally had Leslie. You know, if Palmer's not there, Palmer's been there majority of the season, to be fair, but he keeps persisting with guys like Gallagher when he doesn't need to be playing every single week. That's why I have to look at the manager, right? So for me, I'm on strike 2 right now. But again, the only reason why I'm giving him a little bit of leniency is because we've got a massive list of injuries. And he keeps running to that excuse. Every single time it's, you know, we were hoping that this was going to progress a little bit quicker, but we've had this guy out and this guy out, this guy out. Yes, I understand there are people out, but you're not getting the best out of the players that you've got. Look at Ange Postecoglou, man. The guy's working with rubbish, really and truly.
No,
when guys are injured,
I disagree with that. See,
look, let me land my point. Let me land my point on Ange. Yeah? Like the guy, right? He's been able to use guys that even the other day when they played Man United, he had Skip in midfield, Højbjerg and Bentancur in midfield, right? Mm-hmm. That midfield should have not bossed United the other day. But guess what? They were all playing the exact same way that he wants them to play, and that shows good coaching. Do you know what I mean? He's getting the best out of mediocre players, and for me, Poch has not been able to do that. When he's missing his main guys like an Nkunku, whatever it is, he doesn't. It's like he looks around. Oh, what should I do? Oh, let me do this. Let me test this. It's not going to work one week, but let me do it again the following week. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's too much. He's too reactionary. He's not proactive enough. You know, he hasn't been able to solve a lot of these solutions that have been right there in his face. For example, Maatsen. You know, why are you not playing Maatsen at left back? You know, people would tell me, oh, there's a height thing in the team right now. We need more height in the team. But even with Levi Colwell playing at left back, we still concede headers. We still concede set pieces. So what's the point? Why not play a balanced lineup, a balanced back four with a left back in a Maatsen? But he ain't going to do that because he don't trust him. So for me, again, it's a lack of bravery. You know, that's why I always compare him and Poch, him and Ange, sorry, because Ange, to me, he comes across like a manager who's quite brave. You know, a manager that wants to play his game. He doesn't think about the opposition too much. He thinks about how his team can score more goals and be a more of an attacking threat. Whereas I feel like Poch, he thinks about the opposition way too much. Do you know what I mean? Way too much. And that clouds his judgment and makes him make ridiculous decisions. So you have to look at that as well, bro. I just feel like, for me, that's the reason why I'm not on strike 3 yet, because there's injuries there. But I'm very, very close, Alex. Very, very close. I can't even lie to you, bro. I can't lie.
No, I mean, no, it's absolutely fair what you're saying. And to be fair, maybe this is where I'm a little bit different. See, I look at the Postecoglou situation. I know they've got a lot of injuries at Tottenham, but when they started the season off so well, they have a better squad than us. It's obvious. It is obvious. You know, they might not have the big names, but they made smart signings. And that's on the recruitment. You know, our recruitment. No, but I'm not talking about these guys. These are youth.
Yeah, but these are the guys. These are the guys that have had to come in, bro. That's what I'm saying. These are the guys that have had to come in when they've had injuries. They've had no Maddison since our game, bro, and that was what, back in October. You know, Van de Ven hasn't been available for God knows how long. You know,
but the point that I'm making is from the way they started the season, right? The way they started the season was so strong, it's stronger than anyone. And then they did drop off with injuries. That's right. And don't get me wrong. I think Postecoglou is a great manager. I'm not saying he's a bad manager. People seem to misinterpret that. All I'm saying is that he has a better squad of players than Chelsea to work with. And my judgment's not clouded there. I'm looking at the starting 11 and I'm seeing more players in a Tottenham shirt that would get into big sides than in a Chelsea shirt. You take away Nkunku, really, maybe Silva. He's 40.
I have to disagree, man. I have to disagree though, Alex. This is what I'm saying. Like, majority of the season, he's had Enzo available. Majority of the season, he's had Caicedo available. Majority of the season, he's had Maatsen available. They
haven't proved. Well, I suppose Enzo was good under Potter. I'll give him that. But
very good under Potter.
Under Pochettino, he's not been great. And Caicedo, for me, is still settling in. I think he's getting better with time. But this is where I think that we need to judge Pochettino on the second half of the season. So we're looking at a manager who's come in with Tottenham, basically kicked off very well from the get-go. We can agree on that. And then we're looking at Chelsea. and we're saying we've got a manager who ultimately still hasn't really brought the fans together. The players, apparently there's frustration with him playing the players out of position, but he embodies what the owners are looking for right now, which is a manager who has a track record of being able to push players that aren't as good to higher levels. That's my opinion. Now, we can talk about PSG all we want. I personally think that's a tough example to make because we can't compare ourselves to PSG. So I'm looking at Southampton, I'm looking at Tottenham, and I'm looking at those jobs, and I'm saying, well, I'm sorry, but if he can do it with them, he can do it with us. And then people go on to say, well, you know, he had Harry Kane and all these players. It's like, brilliant. He had great players. But he made them better. He made them better with a squad that ultimately shouldn't have been finishing top 4 every season like they did with Tottenham. But it didn't start that way. You know, they weren't the best they weren't up there straight away. And then his last season, when they got to the Champions League final, that was as far as he could take them. And you just have to keep feeding the manager.
But even then, though, bro, he started Harry Kane, right? The guy was basically.
I think that was a poor decision. But that goes back to what we were saying. We're not talking about. I'm not talking about his tactics. Like I am the first one to hold my hands up and say Poch's tactics are shite. Like they're crap.
But you can't just brush over that. You can't just say like, oh, I know his tactics ain't good, but I'm gonna defend him either way, Alex, because bro, tactics is a big reason why managers like Pep, managers like Klopp are at the level that they are, bro. It's a big part of being a manager. You need to be tactically now. You need to know what you're doing.
Of course. But he's obviously got something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got to this stage, right? So then you look at managers like Thomas Tuchel and you compare him to Pochettino. Now, tactically, we know Tuchel's way ahead. But I think from a man management point of view, Pochettino is levels above Tuchel. So the things that we can't see on the pitch, the training sessions, what happens internally with the recruitment, everything that Pochettino's doing to develop players, we can't see that, right? We can only see what we want to see on the pitch. And ultimately, it's not been good enough. But it is better than last season. So I don't really know how I can criticize progress. It's still not good enough. But it's
we finished 12th last season, bro. We finished 12th, man. Anything's better than 12th. You know, yes, there has been improvement.
So let me ask you this: then, if we were to
look at the bigger picture,
Pochettino, do you think that we would kick on?
If we bring in a manager that's brave, I do. You know, if we brought in a manager,
people talk about Nagelsmann and Flick and all. I don't believe they're realistic, mate. To be honest with you, Nagelsmann rejected us. Flick won't accept the job, and then we're not going to bring Tuchel back. And this isn't the right squad for Mourinho. So I'm not really seeing any managers. And Sarri said the other day he'd come in, but again, I don't see this as a squad that would be suitable for him.
See, look, Poch ain't getting sacked. That's why I'm not really, spending time speaking about alternatives right now, because at the end of the day, Poch right now, as bad as he's been, the past however long it's been now, since December, only Liverpool have picked up more points than us. Do you know what I'm saying? So right now, the performances, are being masked by the results. He's picking up results. So he's not going to get sacked. Like, there's no way the ownership are going to sack him right now, right? But if he wasn't picking up results, like I've said, we can't look at it and think, oh, who's there to bring in right now? We've got to deal with that problem. And Poch right now is being a big problem. He's causing his own mess, And when you're talking about developing these young players, look, I agree with that at Tottenham and I agree with it at Southampton. I agree that it wasn't overnight. But like I said, he is making it very difficult for himself and the players right now. He's overcomplicating things. He's overthinking things at the moment, These players are very young. You need to create a nice, easy platform for them to build from. And if you're playing guys out of position multiple times every single week, chopping and changing, they will never develop, Alex, because again, these guys are young. These guys are young professionals, like you've said. People think Enzo Fernandez is world class because of his name and he's won the World Cup. Enzo's not world class. Enzo, for me, is like a 50 million midfielder before we signed him. We all know why we paid what we did, because they want to sell him in January. But again, he's another young player. Caicedo, this guy, when he's used correctly, you can see like the past month, like you've said, past few games, he's picked up completely. When he's being used correctly to an extent. Right, building a little bit more cohesion in that midfield. But when there's players in a team like Gallagher that you're building around, guys that are just not that good on the ball, guys that aren't the right personnel to be breaking a low block, that's when I have to look at the manager and say, bro, come on, fix up and go with the strongest team for that opposition that you're coming up against. You know what I mean? Every single week, we're just seeing Gallagher. And I'm not getting onto him because, yes, he's improved. I've said multiple times, I think he deserves a new contract. But one of the major reasons why I said in the summer we need to get rid of him, Alex, is because when we signed Poch, I said, bro, this guy is Poch's player on paper. This is a Poch player on paper. We're not going to see the end of Gallagher now. Yeah, now that Pochettino's here. And that's exactly why, because every single game, he's his go-to player. Do you know what I mean? So for me right now, Poch has not been good enough. If it was a situation where every single week is setting us up correctly and we just keep missing chances, then I'll defend him a bit more. Say, look, he's doing things correctly. He's playing this guy in his position.
We are missing chances, Don.
No, we are. We are missing chances. You're right. But at the same time, he still hasn't been setting us up correctly. Like even against Middlesbrough, one of the chances that Cole Palmer missed was from our chance creation. The rest of it was from mistakes. Do you know what I mean? That was the other chances came from mistakes. So that wasn't a pattern of play, you know. That wasn't a pattern of play from Poch's coaching. That was from the opposition making a mistake. So I have to look at things like this, man. It's not been good enough. You know, people are missing chances, but the manager has not been setting us up correctly majority of the season.
Yeah, I think one of the things that does strike me about Poch, which can work very well when it does work, but can also work very badly, is individual moments. Like you see a lot of players, when they have a good moment, that is what wins you games. I mean, especially against Luton, for example. I remember we scored those goals with Palmer and I got the other one, Madueke as well. I mean, they were just, mate, that was just magic, you know, except for the first goal, which was obviously a mistake. The second and third goal, that is just confidence brewing from a player. And that is where I think that Poch does have potential. Now, again, I just want to reiterate this. I'm not saying he's a good manager at the moment. I'm not saying he's the best manager, but I am saying that I think there's something there. You know, even when he speaks, people don't always like what he says. He's a much better speaker than Potter. You know, I can get behind some of the things that Pochettino says, and he contradicted himself, which Lewis pointed out as well. And he criticized him for that. I don't, because it's true. We thought at the beginning we could push up the top end of the table. I thought we could get top 4. And then, obviously, when the results got bad, Pochettino said, listen, our reality at the moment is mid-table. He's not wrong. So I don't understand how people can criticize that. It's like when Ten Hag, you know, it's like people criticizing Ten Hag. And it's an interesting point you made before. I like Ten Hag. I wouldn't sack him at Man United. So maybe I'm different in that regard as well. I don't think Ten Hag, I wouldn't sack him. No, I like him.
You're way more. I thought I was lenient. Jesus Christ, Alex, man.
No, because what I want to see from the management is some form of leadership that is consistent, you know. And I feel like with a lot of the managers these days, they go up and down, up and down. You know what you're going to get with Pochettino. You know what you're going to get with Erik ten Hag. And the number one thing is standards, you know. And I think they both have great standards. Obviously, if the results aren't there, that's fair enough. But then you look at why they don't get the results. I don't think Man United have good enough players. And I don't think Chelsea have good enough players. And that's ultimately why I'm not as critical on the management.
And that's where we disagree. You know, I'm not saying that we've got world-class players, but the bunch of players that we've got, I'm sorry, there's a lot of managers in this league that would love to work with them, you know? And the reason why, for me, I'm just praying that these guys start to recover. We start to get Lavia's and then Cuckoo's back and Badia Shield's back, is Poch, with the squad that he's working with all these injuries, hasn't been able to prove to me that he can manage this situation, right? All he's showed me is inconsistency, chopped up lineups, and excuses, right? So my hope is that these guys will get fit, because everything that Poch says, it goes into one ear and comes out the other. I don't believe it, because what I'm seeing on the pitch is not making sense, right? You can make up all these excuses and whatnot, but you're not helping yourself. So we just need to get guys fit so we can stop using excuses about, oh, we ain't got this guy and we ain't got that guy and we ain't got that guy. We just need to start getting guys fit, man. That's the only thing. That's the only hope. But I just don't see Poch getting better as it is until we get guys coming back from injury, because he's not brave enough. He's really not. He's really not.
Yeah. I mean, this for me in January and the summer, it's the ownership. And you know, ultimately we will agree to disagree on the player situation. Like, I'm not saying they won't get there. Like, I want to make that very clear. I think Mudryk has a great ceiling, and I think all of these players have a high ceiling, but they're just not there yet, and that's why we're struggling, right? Because they need.
I agree with you. By the way, I do agree with you with certain players like Mudryk. For now, I think he's potential, right? You're seeing is very raw. Madueke, same sort of thing. But there's others that are young in the team that I think are of a level right now to be playing week in, week out in the Premier League, like a Enzo, Palmer, Caicedo, these guys, Badia Shield. These are young players, but I think they're good enough to hold their own right now. You know what I mean? That's where we disagree. But certain players, I do agree, like Madueke, Madueke and Mudryk. You can see that they're raw. They need a lot more development, I would say, than the others I've just mentioned.
100%. And the owners are the ones that need to take the responsibility now. And I said it after Middlesbrough, sign some ready-made players, because I just can't judge Pochettino properly. Like, I keep defending him and people call me deluded. Maybe I am a little bit. But ultimately, I think I'm right, you know, and I think that this approach works in more ways than not. And when you're spending ridiculous amount of money on ready-made players, we're having a very different conversation, my friend. You know, just like if I was starting a new channel, a new show or a new channel, and it didn't work after 6 months, I wouldn't stop. I'd keep going and see if it would actually get something, because sometimes that's just how things work, like with anything. And I do think that football is similar nowadays more than ever, because the league is so competitive. So if I'm seeing Bowley and Egbali not spending in January, not spending in the summer, I will have a serious problem with this ownership, which, by the way, people call me out for all the time because they think I have this agenda. I love Clearlake and I love Bowley. Like, don't get me wrong, like in X amount of years, who knows what could happen. Like, maybe Chelsea Fan TV will be like other fan channels where we'll be able to interview players, but I want nothing to do with them if they don't have the best interests of the club. That's my prerogative. So I'm willing to give things time. This is their second full season, and they're going to go into their third season. And for me, year 3 of a process is where you need to say, hang on a second, you said this was a long-term process. You should start to see progression in year 3, and by year 5, you should be right up there with everyone else. So if we're not signing the Osmans, all the big players that we need to basically solidify ourselves at the top, because we're not going to do it with Broha and Jackson right now, then I have an ownership problem. And Pochettino's mistakes, you could argue, are because of the lack of quality investments, ready-made investments that he has to work with. And, you know, we saw it with Wolves, and Kunku came back, scored straight away. Next thing you know, he's injured again. You know, it's just typical, isn't it? But that is where I stand. So, look, let's not get it twisted. I'm not Pochettino's biggest fan. I just believe in a process that takes a little bit longer than 6 months. And ultimately, people are on Twitter all the time disagreeing with that. Like, you're entitled to. But I'm going to the games every week. I'm seeing this. And Middlesbrough was a disgrace, Don. I wasn't there at United away either, but I mean, that was horrific. If I didn't go in the second leg against Middlesbrough, or even against Aston Villa or Liverpool, that is where I do say, you know what?
We lose to Middlesbrough, he has to get sacked. We don't go through. We don't get to the final. He has to go. Yeah. That same night, I need to see he's gone. Yeah. That's unacceptable.
Mate, if we see something like that, then I can't argue against it. That's the thing. I'd be interviewing people on the fan cams. How am I supposed to defend that? Because look, I can't remember everything with United. To be fair, I can't remember all the details. I know we got battered, but Middlesbrough, every decision we made.
Was it 3-1? 3-1. Was it 4-1? We lost against United. Shit. Was it 4-1?
Yeah.
Palmer scored. Wait, who scored for them then? It was Scott McTominay.
I think. What's his name? McTominay scored 2. Rash?
Was it 4-1? Nah, I'm sure it was. Hold on. Nah, bro, it was 2-1. We didn't lose 4-1. That was for last season. You're thinking of last season.
Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry.
You're thinking of last year when we lost. When Fofana had an absolute howler. João Felix came on. João Felix came on and scored. This year was 2-1. This year was 2-1. Scott McTominay scored both goals. Yeah. Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, man, honestly, bro, like for me, how I look at it right now, this guy needs to win against Middlesbrough. You know, I'm going to be at the bridge as well. That's the day before our birthday as well, Alex. You know that? That's the day before our birthday, bro. Yeah.
Oh man.
Jesus
but no,
Christ.
It's not just about losing. Right? It's the way you lose or the way you win. If you are losing and you are doing everything right, I really struggle to criticize, managers, because ultimately it's the players that have to perform. But if you're making all the wrong decisions like you were against Middlesbrough, then it's a disgrace, to be quite frank. So although I am positive and, more positive than most, it is logical as well, what I'm saying. Like there is logic to what I'm talking about. Ultimately, if you walked into a new job in not a new industry, but if you went to a different company, a much bigger company than you were right now, Don, you would expect to be given time to get where you need to be. And if after 6 months you hadn't hit the criteria, you'd say, well, listen, guys, I've left this job. I've been in this job for X amount of time. And you're expecting me to just go like that. It doesn't always work like that, mate. So I think it's the same in football. And I think that our situation is more extreme than most. Like Chelsea's got to be the hardest team to manage in world football right now. From an expectation point of view to where we actually are, I can't see any clubs that rival that. I think Everton were once there. I think United were once there. And I think right now we're there.
Boy, let's just hope everyone gets fit, man. That's the next bit. That's the next bit, man.
But listen, guys, thank you for watching. If you've managed to stay for the whole video, we've been 31 minutes. Listen, Don, I wasn't even expecting this to be a debate, to be fair. It sort of turned into a little debate. We were going to talk transfers and things like that, but it sort of turned into a Pochettino video, which is fine.
I mean, we can quickly touch up on it. We can quickly touch up on it, to be fair. Broja, what's your thoughts on him?
50 million. What the hell is that? Where's that come from?
We're not getting that. We're not getting that. I think we're doing a similar sort of thing as what we did with Mount, because we put him up for what was it, 70 million? They said at first, 75 million or whatever it was. And then, they met in the middle. So I reckon if they put the actual value of what they would accept, like 35 M's, then it'll mean that people will start to lowball. But if you put it up at 50, then you should be able to meet in the middle. Anyone with eyes, right, will tell you that Broja right now is not worth no 50 million. If he was bagging, how much did you say?
20 million. That's how much I would pay for.
Bro, I would accept 25, mate. 20, whatever. But obviously that's not going to happen. He's homegrown. They'll try to get as much as they can. You know what I mean? So you're probably looking at about 35 million. But anyone panicking that he's been put up at 50, the club knows that they know they're not going to get that. We're not going to get that for 50 for Broja right now. No chance.
Yeah, I mean, and just to finish off, then, I mean, which striker would you take as a replacement? Broja was never really a starting striker in the first place. I mean, we've got Victor Gyökeres, Benzema apparently on loan potentially, and Osimhen as well, and Tony.
Yeah, for me, I mean, what in the short term fix, I'd probably say Benzema makes sense. Last season, even when we played Real Madrid, to be honest, Alex, like the guy didn't look the same. His mobility looks like it's kind of gone downhill a bit. But in front of goal, I trust Benzema to finish more chances than Jackson and Broja, for example. And Washington, we ain't really see much of him, right? So right now, I would take Benzema. I'm not going to be gassed if we sign him because I don't think he's the same player. But again, I do think he can add numbers in this team. And then in the summer, I am leaning more towards Osimhen, I can't lie. And the reason being is he's a box crasher, man. This guy's a serious striker in the box, and a lot of the chances I've seen us create this year have been in the box, in and around the area. When I'm looking at some of the chances we've missed, I'm looking at Jackson like, bro, why are you not in that danger zone? And I can just imagine the Victor being in that danger zone, So I'm kind of alternating between him and Tony, man. I think Tony, for me in the summer, I said it was my number one because I think overall he's the better footballer. But I think Victor Osimhen in the box is the better striker than Tony, in my opinion. So I'll probably say Victor because he's younger as well. But if we do end up getting Tony, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at either, in my opinion. I'll be real. The other guy, I don't know much about him. What's his name? Victor Gyökeres.
Mate, I found out he was at Coventry.
He was.
Can you imagine?
He was in the Championship. But a few people that watch him have said he's a good player. I haven't watched much apart from compilations, so I can't really comment much on it. But from the ones that I have watched, Osimhen and Tony, for me, I'm leaning more towards Victor, man. But I swear every other day it changes, man. I'm like, Tony, Osimhen, I don't know. What about you? Who would you like to bring in?
Mate, I'd probably take
Benzema first of all.
I was having this discussion with Charlie. To be fair, I would take Benzema. Charlie doesn't think it's a good idea, but look, worst case, you just don't sign him. And also, we're not paying his full wages. That's just not happening.
That's not going to happen. No chance.
If he does come on loan, we'll pay 50% of his wage, and that's being
Mm.
generous. So that
We've
would
got
be
a lot of French players. We've got a lot of French players as well, man, in the team. So that could help.
well. We just need a striker who can finish, and
Literally.
ultimately, if you're a young striker, you want to know what it's like to be a good striker. And Benzema's a Ballon d'Or winner. Like, you can't lose it all in 6 months. He's not been great in in Saudi, but he's not been a disaster. For a long time. It's only been 6 months. So come back to the best league in the world, revigorate your career, and maybe get another big move to another team if that works for you, or ride it out in Saudi and get your pension, whatever you want, really. But that's where I stand on Benzema. But with the strikers, I'd be happy with anyone, to be honest with you. Gyökeres has got world-class stats this season. I think he's got 30 goal contributions in 24 games. Like, I know it's only been half the season, but I mean, if that's anything to come through, then that's world-class stats. There's no denying that. But can you do it over years? That's what clubs will ask. And then, mate, I'm with you as well. Like, I'd take Tony, I'd take Osimhen. It's around the same price. Obviously, Tony's Prem proven, but Osimhen's a big striker, and I think
he's younger. That's another thing. He's young,
and he fits the model. You're right. He does fit the model. So I'm not really looking at this in any negative fashion towards some players. I would be happy with any of them. But I know obviously there's preferences. Like, Osimhen's number one for a lot of people, and Tony as well. But any experience is better than no experience, and they've all got more quality than what we have. So
facts.
No complaints, mate. But listen, guys, we're going to round this out. Thank you for watching. 36 minutes. Don, always a pleasure, mate. Guys, if you want to see Don on the channel more often, let us know in the comments, and we'll get him on. And if you agree or disagree with anything myself or Don has said, let us know as well. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of points that you disagree with, especially from me, because that's what I've been reading recently, but that's okay. But listen, guys, all the best. We'll see you very soon. Like, subscribe, and up the Chelsea.
Up the Chelsea.